So, in the cliff notes that you sent me, I was surprised to learn that the person in the relationship that you and I are going to be talking about today was 2 times your age.
Oh, yeah.
And when you started dating him, which this relationship ended only, or began just a couple of years ago, so this healing journey is quite new for you.
It's still fresh. Yeah.
You said that you were introduced by a mutual friend. So how did this friend know him, and how were you introduced?
So my mutual friend, she had family that was part of a motorcycle club, and he was part of it, and that's how they had met. And then they had met years ago prior to me knowing her and whatnot. And then one night her and I went out to the bar, and she said, "Hey, my friend is having a rough night. He's wondering if he can come out hang out with us." In my head I was thinking, oh, like, because she is in her 30s now. When we were friends, it was when she was 28, 29. And so I was thinking, like, it's gonna be like a 30-something-year-old male. Like, that's what I was expecting. And then she's like, he is in his 40s and he is into you. And I was like, okay. Young me, young 21-year-old me was like, okay, never been with a guy that old, but I'll see where it goes. I'm not against anything. If we have a connection, we have a connection. And when he walked into the bar that night, there was definitely a connection right off the bat. He was very charming, witty, just really good conversationalist too. And we ended up at the end of the night, just she had gone home and we were just sitting on the tailgate of my truck just talking until like 4 in the morning in a parking lot. And that's how we met and started talking. Kind of like we did end up kissing at the end of the night before he left, but it was such a kind of pure conversation where we were just able to get everything off our chest. He talked about his situation and I talked about mine. And because at the time I was going through a real rough patch with one of my exes, and we were in a break, and that was really hard for me. And so to be able to talk about that was really nice. And so that's how we met and kind of started forming that bond. And little did I know
What would unfold.
who he truly was, but yeah.
So how long after you guys initially met did you begin dating?
Well, we didn't start dating until, let's see, because that night we met was June of 2022. And we had an incident occur before we even started dating. We started talking more and wanted to start dating. And then my ex and we officially broke things off. We'll call him S because he's a different ex. So S, we finally broke things off and I was heartbroken. And M asked me, I'll just use M for him. M asked me if I needed to come over to cry, have a cry, like shoulder to cry on, talk things out. And I was so grateful for that because I was like, yes, I could really use that. And I ended up drinking a little bit and heading over, which I'm not proud of the drinking part of it, but yeah, went to his house and he was able to let me cry and everything. And then we both had a very physical wants, but that did not, I told him no because it was a fresh breakup. Like it's still heartbreaking. No matter if there was a break in between the official breaking up, it was still hard. And he respected that. In the morning, he didn't though, when I was waking up. And so we have that trauma that started things off in like the toxic way. My friend at the time, she believed me, but our other friend was best friends with him too. And so she kind of gaslit me with him into making me think it was a misunderstanding and that we just miscommunicated and whatnot. And so I believed that for a very long time, in which then because that was oh goodness, end of June, I want to say. Yeah, end of June. And so we kind of talked a little bit from June up until November, occasionally slept around with each other, but it wasn't anything more than that until December hit. And that was a really weird time because in August of 2022, I had to put my horse down. And my horse, everyone knows my horse was my baby, and that was the most heartbreaking decision I had to do because he was fine one minute and just really not okay the next. And so having to go through the grief of that just made me have very questionable things happen. One of them being this relationship because he was there, he was a shoulder to cry on, and was being supportive about it. And so when December rolled around and he was talking about, hey, I want something more, but I don't know if you want it, and if you don't want it, then I'm gonna head out. Like, I gotta go. And so I was like, yes, of course, I want it. Like, you've been supportive. Like, things have been great. I love talking to you. Like, I love hanging out with you. And so that's kind of how things started dating wise. And that, oh, that was on and off after that period in time. Yeah, by the time of, I want to say, middle of January, we broke up for like 3 days, and then he was blowing up my phone, saying a lot of things, a lot of hurtful things, and then a lot of sweet things. And the second like I started just getting like mentally whiplash, he was like, "Oh, but it's okay, we can get back together." Or our thing was, let's just be friends and just see where that goes. And 3 days later, we'd always end up back together again. And yeah.
Okay. Can we back up a little bit to, if you're okay with this, to that morning after you guys first, I guess I'll say, hooked up?
Yeah.
Because you had said something that I wanted to clarify if this was if this was the morning that this happened. But the morning of we'll call it the misunderstanding, where you had said, like, I'm not ready for any kind of physical intimacy, but it ended up happening anyway. Yeah. I'm assuming it was like a pressure situation from him.
Kind of, yeah. It's more so I woke up to it.
Okay.
Yeah. And so my brain was immediate to like freeze mode. Didn't really know what was going on because I was freshly waking up with a major hangover. And so yeah, I woke up to that, and my brain automatically goes to I did something. Like, is there something I did in my sleep that might have suggested? Like, could it possibly be like that? Because I was 21, very young, and didn't know very much about that type of the world and whatnot. So I had talked to my friends about it because I was like, hey, this is a huge accusation. I don't take it lightly, but I need to run something by you guys and get your opinions on it. And so our mutual friend that introduced us was like, no, that's exactly what you think it is. That's what happened. And our other friend, who was also best friends with him, was like, well, you need to hear his side first about what happened. And I was like, okay, it's a little weird. Looking back now, I'm like, that's a huge red flag. But at the time, I was like, okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like, maybe there was something that I did that could have instigated it. Yeah, it wasn't until later on when him and I started dating that I found out a lot of things about that best friend of his that was mine too. Because after that incident, we went to an MC, or motorcycle club's annual party. And he was there along with my best friend's family and whatnot because they were in the club as well. And I was told by that friend that he was going to buy me a beer and a shot if I talked to him and tell him, because at the time I was pregnant from it and did not know how to handle that whatsoever. Did not handle it in the best way.
So that morning ended in a pregnancy. Okay.
It did, yeah. I had gone to Walgreens, gone to Plan B and everything, but unfortunately, I was ovulating at the time, and that's Plan B stops the ovulation, it doesn't stop the pregnancy, and so it cancels each other out when you're ovulating, and so unfortunately, that's what happened, and I did not take it very well because I was really messed up about it. Because I had one person telling me one thing of, yep, that's it, another that these two women that are my bestest friends in the world that I trust with my life, just one's going, no, you need to talk to him about it. The other is saying, no, that's what that is. And I was just thrown through a loop when that test turned positive and didn't know what I was going to do. And then the annual popped on. Like, I want to say that was like 2 weeks afterwards. And they were both, the one that was maybe it was a misunderstanding, had gone up to him and talked to him saying, hey, she's pregnant, you need to talk to her. Came back to me and said, hey, he said he'll do this if you go talk to him. And so, me being 21, mentally just not there anymore, was like, you know what, yes, it's free alcohol, absolutely. And so I talked to him, and just to come to find out, like, months into like 2 months into dating him, she had gone up and instigated the whole thing behind my back without knowing it. That hurt a lot. But
she instigated,
knowing what I know now.
She had instigated what had happened at that party?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
She wanted us to talk, and knew that if she were to ply me with alcohol, I absolutely would talk to him, and that's exactly what ended up happening. And then because it was a party, we were like, okay, well, we can't continue this conversation right now. Like, this is a serious conversation. We're getting buzzed and drunk. Like, we can't have an appropriate conversation. So we scheduled it for like a week out. And I ended up having that meeting with him with that best friend there with me, to which I was able to be gaslit into. It was just a miscommunication between us. Like, you were just wiggling your butt towards me in your sleep and whatnot. I was like, okay, yep, miscommunication clearly. Looking back now, absolutely not.
Is this the same friend that introduced you guys in the very beginning at the bar?
No, it's another friend, but the one that introduced me was the one that said, no, that's exactly what you think it is. Like, that wasn't okay. It's not a miscommunication. And yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what kind of things did they say to you to make you change your mind and to say, okay, well, this was a misunderstanding or a miscommunication?
He was very good at going through our previous messages before my breakup and for that day, because we did talk a lot of sexual things and things that we liked. And one of those things was waking up to morning sex. And so for him, he brought that up, and I was like, oh, you're right. I did talk about that. Maybe I am in the wrong about this. And yeah, and it took me talking to my friend who introduced us alone with her. I was like, hey, like, I know I said this, but I feel like that type of thing is more for when I've known you and have dated you for a long period of time and trust you on that level. That's when it's allowed, rather than first time spending the night. Like, and she was like, yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. Like, that takes a lot of trust with someone to be able to do that. And it's not exactly you do it the first night you guys sleep together. Like, no, it's not a thing.
Not at all. Especially not for the first time. Like, consent.
Oh, yeah.
You were unable to
It's
give
huge.
consent. You were unable to give consent. So you said you started dating in November, like officially. And
December.
December.
Yeah.
And was this the time where he started to kind of move into that psychological, mental, emotional kind of abuse? Because you had said that he had started to blow up your phone when you would hang out with friends. So when exactly did that start in the relationship, and what was his reason for contacting you like that?
It pretty much started right off, like within like the first 2 weeks of us officially dating. It became a problem that I would go drinking with the friend that introduced us, because she didn't like him at that point. She hated his guts for what he did to me for the incident. And so she was not happy, and he knew that. And so whenever her and I were going out for drinks, he would always keep blowing my phone up, keeping my attention on my phone, just like, hey, like, I hope you're having a good night. Why are your texts taking so long to get sent to me? Like, what's going on? I don't like that you're there with her. And at one point, well, that's jumping ahead. I'll wait on that one. But yeah, so that's how it started. He would text me like things about like, hi, like, send me a picture of you guys together. Like, I want to make sure you're there where you're saying, and pretty much that type of stuff. Just wanting to keep my attention away from the present and onto him. That started within the first 2 weeks of us dating. It wasn't as crazy. I thought he was just being a boyfriend that was just like a little bit overprotective, a little bit jealous, and yeah.
It sounds to me, I've been through this as well, but it sounds to me like she probably made it known that she was done with him. She didn't want to be associated with him anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So she was going to be the whistleblower on his actions. She was going to be the one to drive you away from him. She was going to be the one to save you. And he knew that.
Mm-hmm.
He knew that.
He absolutely did. I didn't see it. After that, the first 2 weeks, it started getting more difficult to be able to go out with her. And so that was after like the first 2 weeks, I found I was like, hey, no, we gotta stop. Like, this isn't healthy. I like being with my best friends. Like, I like going out to the bars with them. It's a lot of fun. Yes, we get a little hammered, but we're safe about it. Like, we have our DDs. Like, we all spend the night at one house. So that way we're all together. Like, there's no separating. It's a fun time. We're a safe group and we keep each other safe. And it could be a worse situation. And he did not like that. And so he would retaliate with, well, if we're done, I'm going to go hook up with some girls. And I'd be like, well, don't do that. I don't want you to do that. Like, but if you need to do that, then you need to do that. And would be heartbroken about it. And they would know and they would comfort me and be like, yeah, we know he's a fucking dick. Like, but you're better than this. Like, you're good. You're a baddie. Like, come on, let's go back to the house. We'll go and watch the kids and watch Bluey and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so that's how they would take care of me afterwards, because I would be a mess about it. And it would consume me. And it got to the point where I would be blowing his phone up, trying to be like, well, what are you talking about? Like, let's talk about this. Like, he drew me right back in with that line. And at like when we eventually, like after the 3-4 days of being separated, we got back together again. And my friends were all disappointed, but they knew. And it just kept getting more and more and more worse throughout the relationship. Every time we would end things and get back in, and it was crazy.
So during this time that you guys are in that on again, off again period, you said that he would pretend to be suicidal, and this was mainly what he would pull to actually pull you back in.
Yeah, if the dropping the comment about girls didn't work, because towards the middle of a relationship, that didn't faze me anymore. I was like, you know what, if you're gonna do it, then do it. I don't care anymore. He would then go out of his way to say, well, I'm done. I'm gonna go drinking and jump off a bridge. Like, I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna like very dangerous things. And at first it was just texting. No pictures were sent. What I didn't know at the time was that he had made a fake profile on Facebook to pose as his friend. Turns out who he was dating at the same time with me. But made the fake profile of her to text me as her and saying all kinds of things like, I'm never going to forgive you if he's dead. Like, I'm trying to find him right now. I've got a friend who's a hacker who's trying to hack his phone to figure out his location. Like, all this stuff. And it first started out with just that. And then the last time he tried that with me, or the second to last time he tried that with me, because he tried it 3 times, one including in prison. But the second time, he actually sent pictures of his shoe with his leg in it and everything in the grass sideways, as if like the hacker friend was able to take a picture off of like his camera remotely. And sent me like this fake location thing, and to the point where I was driving around looking for a body everywhere. And it got to the point where I had like finals for school, because at the time, I was at PMI, or Pima Medical Institute, for the vet assistant program, and I had finals, and I had to tell my teacher, my professor, I was like, hey, this is what's going on right now. I don't know if we're going to have a body or not. But if I leave, like, this is why. I don't want you to think I'm just walking out and whatnot. He's like, absolutely. Like, if you need to go, you need to go. And so I was able to text who I thought the friend was. I texted the friend, like, hey, just letting you know, like, if you need me to come out there to help you guys, like, I will. Like, I can leave class. And she was like, oh, no, no, no. Like, stay there. He would want you to finish your final and everything. And, like, my brain was just like, yeah, that makes total sense. Like, no. And that night ended up with him calling me off of that account, tears on his face, freaked out and whatnot, acting like he just got woken up by smelling salts and whatnot. And then he drove over to me at my school and was like, and because I was like, wait, no, you're supposed to be going to the hospital first off. Like, second off, like, what do you mean you're coming over here right now? Like, you need to go home. You need to rest. Like, I'll come see you after school if need be, but like, go home. Nope, he came right to me, had a twisted ankle. Yeah, that was all just a cover up that he went to his other girlfriend's house that was hours away. Yeah. And I
Oh
didn't find that
my
out until he went
gosh.
to prison. And so we went from, because last time he did that was, I want to say in April, May of last year. I want to say April. And so from January to April, he had those attempts. And I didn't find this all out until like middle of June.
This
And so he,
this man was 45 years old. That is such an
mm-hmm.
elaborate attempt to cover up cheating. What was
Oh
he
yeah.
doing? Was he working? This is insane.
No, he was on, he didn't know when he was going to be going to prison because he went to prison for domestic violence and stalking.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't let me know the charges until I showed up with him to his last court hearing for him to get booked into the prison and whatnot. And so that's when I found out his charges. And I was like, oh, this all makes a lot of
Oh
sense now.
my God.
Yeah, because at the time, my friend, that our mutual friend, was like, yeah, I know those charges are kind of bogus and whatnot. Like, it was not real. And then she saw what was happening to me from January up until when we stopped being friends in April. She saw what he was doing to me. I was like, oh crap, these things are
I
kind of
was
real
gonna
now. Like,
say,
seeing it with my own
please tell me
eyes.
you're not friends with her
Yeah.
anymore.
Nope. I finally came out and was like, hey, we're actually going to try this. We're going to try to actually date and not be like hiding in the shadows while dating and whatnot. Like, we want to go to the stores together. We want to go shopping together. Like, all this fun stuff, couple stuff, normal people
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And so she was like, she threw me an ultimatum, her, him. And my brain was like, well, I'm dating him. I'm not going to be dating him, marrying you. I love you, but we're best
Mm-hmm.
friends. Because at the time, I was told that she had a huge crush on me because I'm bisexual, she's pansexual, and so she had a thing for me from what I was told, and I was like, we're best friends. I can't do that. Plus, I'm okay. Thank you though.
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, so she threw that at me, and I was heartbroken because I was like, you're my best friend. Like, what do you mean you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
leave? And so I ended up saying, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna choose you, obviously. You're my best friend about it. Like, I love you, but this is gonna be really hard for me because he has completely trauma bonded me. I didn't know at the time it was a trauma
Mm-hmm.
bond, but he completely trauma bonded me to him, and so it was almost like the end of the
Mm-hmm.
world. End of the world with like an
Mm-hmm.
addiction to
Mm-hmm.
him. And yeah, I ended up going with him to our little vacation down in Oregon. And she knew that I was with him without me telling her. And so she actually waited till I got back. This was in April. She waited until I got back from that vacation and went to my evening class for the day. That she came over to my house and dropped all my stuff off and did not send me a text, nothing. Just left my stuff, told my family I was dating him again, and dipped
Mm-hmm.
out. And so I was very hurt by that for the longest
Mm-hmm.
time and very angry because I was like, you're my best friend. Like, you're supposed to be there for me. You said that you would always be there for me no matter what. And while I didn't realize it at the time, I was completely trauma bonded and needed someone just to keep sticking their hand
Mm-hmm.
out and just wait for the day that I finally woke up, was like, oh, I need
Mm-hmm.
out. I need to be
Mm-hmm.
gone. And unfortunately, her hand was not the hand that I grabbed. So
But it sounds
that
like
was
that
horrible.
that friendship was very layered. Very, very layered. Like
It
there was
was
feelings for you.
extremely.
There was manipulation and
Mm-hmm.
gaslighting on her part when it came to the man that you were with.
Oh yeah.
It sounds like it was
Mm-hmm.
probably toxic from
It
definitely the
was,
beginning of
and
that
I
relationship. Yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm.
I love her to death. I hope and wish her the best to this
Mhm.
day. I hope she's happy, but it was definitely it was not a good friendship. We were toxic, not really like to each other, but also just like to everyone else too. We weren't a good duo. We weren't good for each other to hang out with. And so, yeah, but yeah, no, after she had left, he was able to manipulate my anger and twist it in a way that would end up hurting her and all my previous friends, because this is where he started to isolate me.
Yes.
Because now she was gone. She's out of the picture.
So let's talk about that. Tell me how he isolated you, because it sounds like he used a lot of intimidation tactics.
Oh yeah. He's 6 foot, and so I'm 5'1". So there was not just the age gap that was intimidating, but his physical appearance was very intimidating. But yeah, no. So basically, there were a lot of threats made whenever I didn't want to do anything. Once she left and was out of the picture for good, and he knew, he had me message all of my friends that I was friends with her, all of them saying the most evil and disgusting things I have ever had to write. And I still to this day get emotional about it because it breaks my heart every time I have to think about it. Like, he had me make her out to be a completely horrible person, and that all my friends were horrible, and that we were all drunks, and that it at the time I was so manipulated I couldn't see it. And I thought that, well, this is what he wants me to do for love. In reality, he was threatening me to say, like, all these things, and if I didn't, then he was going to drive me out to the middle of nowhere and drop me off and have me walk home. And so, on one hand, I've got him going, yeah, no, it's okay, like, get all these emotions out, write it all down. On the other hand, if you don't write it correctly, this is what's going to happen to you. And he would proofread everything, and if it wasn't to his satisfaction, that threat would come up again of him dropping me off in the middle of nowhere. So I'd rewrite it, try to make it into his words. I would even ask him, like, what do you want me to write then? Like, I'm trying to make you happy here. Like, what should I write? And he would tell me exactly what to write. And so, unfortunately, I was not strong enough to say no to him about that stuff because I was scared, but also very angry.
Did he pick who you would message?
Yep. Every man that was in our friend group, along with 2 or 3 of the females that I was friends with too. He knew the friend group because, come to find out later on, he would watch me through the fence at the bar. Because the bar that we would go to had a back patio area with a fire pit, and you can easily look through the slots easily. And so that's what he would do. He would stalk. He would come to the bar on nights I was out, and he would come watch me and listen to my conversations and everything. And at one point, he sent me a text of when my friend and I were still friends. He sent me a text saying, "Who's the blonde boy in the picture that you just showed your friend? What are you guys giggling about?" And I started freaking out. I was like, who is I? That's when I knew he was watching me and had people watching me at the same time. So he would show up to the bar and watch the fence, and then he would have his friends watching me when I was inside the bar. And so, yeah, ooh. I got, to this day, I'm paranoid, more so because of that than anything else, because I had no clue until he gave himself away with it. And once I knew about that, I knew, like, okay, I'm being watched, and I know it now, so I can think about how I'm gonna act now, and before it gets back to him. I was like, he would even tell me, like, how many beers I was allowed to have, and I would have to sneak a third beer, like, in the bathroom, so that way he didn't know, and pretend I only had, like, 1 or 2. And so because he would get reports back on how many beers I was drinking, who I was talking to, how long I would talk to them, especially if it was a male. Like, I didn't know that for a very long time. And so, yeah.
That is insane. I mean, obviously, this man is possessive, and possessive to the point where things were not only, he wasn't just, let's list the things, right? He's SA'd you at this point. There's been intimidation tactics, mental, emotional, psychological abuse. He's stalked you. And now we're leading up to when things really start to escalate. His possessiveness turns into physical abuse. And you said the first time that this happened, And the thing that set him off was because you smiled at your phone.
Yes. So this took place in February of 2022, or 2023,
Mm-hmm.
sorry. We were at the gym, Planet Fitness. I had the black membership card, and so I brought him in as a guest, and we started doing workouts the next. I took evening classes that last until 10 o'clock at night, and so we would just go straight to the gym afterwards and meet up there. And at one point, I had smiled at my phone because at that point he was calling me an alcoholic. I drank too much liquor and all this stuff. And the song Villain Era popped on, one of Book Talk's songs. And I smiled down it because it was talking about when she gets some liquor in her system. I was giggling. I was like, that's kind of funny. And he saw me smiling in the mirror and whipped around. I was like, "Who are you talking to?" And I showed him. I was like, "No, it's the song. Like I'm smiling at the song." And he had me open up my phone, and he then proceeded to walk out of the gym and scroll through all my social apps and everything. He found a guy on Snapchat who I had just started talking to that day and blew up about it. We went into my car, and he was talking about throwing my phone across the parking lot, smashing it. I was not allowed to leave. We had to go get cigarettes all of a sudden. Like, I had to drive him places to get it. And then he has my phone still and walked to his car with it, so that I was forced to get out and go into his car. And with that, just transferred all of the power that I had to him, in which he drove us around, scaring the living daylights out
Mm-hmm.
of me. Because this was at this point like 12, 1 o'clock at night. And so I was like, okay, I gotta get home soon. Like, I can't be out all night. I've got my family's car with me. Like, I gotta go soon. And so he was like, all right, we're gonna make this really quick then. You're gonna delete all the men off your phone, all the pictures with your former best friend.
Mm-hmm.
So many things, like phone numbers. I had to go through my contact list, and he would scroll through and ask me who this was and who this was. Facebook, only male family members were allowed. Only those were the only males that were allowed. Snapchat, pretty much had to delete that. Instagram had to delete accounts, which was heartbreaking because I had several horse accounts for my horse. And so I had to try as fast as I could screenshot, screen record all of those posts and memories. I ended up having to delete those. Had to go through my entire Instagram followers and following all in one sit down. And I had over 1,000 followers and over like 5,000 following because it's Instagram. And so I had to go through all that and delete like all the cowboys, all like actors, actresses, like whole 9 yards. I had to even go through like accounts that I had no clue were following me because I was a public account at that point. And I had to go through and block people that were man. And so that was rough, but it wasn't as bad until I had to go through the pictures. And at that point, he was so pissed off and frustrated, and it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, that he said, just delete your entire camera roll. And I was like, I can't. Like, I've got my horse's pictures, my final moments with my horse, and years of footage. I can't delete it. And he ended up making me delete it still. And wasn't able to recover those pictures to this day, unfortunately. But when he let me go, though, after that. He did say he was going to smash my phone, but I was like, you can't do that. It's my dad's phone. That's a felony. Like, you don't need that on your record. Like, just give me back my phone. It's gonna be okay. Like, I'll finish this when I get home. He said, absolutely do it, because I can't look at you. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And as I'm driving home, my mom texts me and she goes, hey, are you okay? Where are you? And I just texted back, no. And I'll let you know when I get home. And so I got home, and she's sitting on the couch waiting for
Mm-hmm.
me. Because the second I said no, she was like, something
Yeah.
happened. Like, something bad. Because when our mutual friend and I went our separate ways, she told my mom I was dating him
Mm-hmm.
again. And my mom hates him with a passion, has always hated him. And so she was very upset when she found out that I was dating him again, and rightfully so. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so when I finally texted like, no, I'm not okay, she knew something happened. And so when I got there, I explained to her everything that happened. I told her what happened and everything, and she was like, all right, you need to call the cops. We need to file a report. Like, this is not okay. This is not normal. Because it went from her barely speaking to me because of who I was dating to, you need to do this. This needs to be done. And since this was before our mutual friend and I stopped being friends, I called her to let her know. I was like, hey, I was seeing him, been seeing him for some time again. This is what happened tonight. I could really use you. And she came over and helped with me talking to the police. I had to submit a ton of evidence, all the screenshots of our texts, of him threatening and everything, whole 9 yards. So I had that all filled out, and she stayed the night with me at my house because I was like, not okay. And so the next morning we went and got a restraining order against him at the district county courthouse, and that was, ooh, that was my first time ever having to go into a courthouse for anything other than a speeding ticket. And so that was super intimidating, and I had no clue what to expect. I knew that I had to dress nice, and I was in my pajamas still because I was still in shock of what happened. So we went out and went to Goodwill. I got myself some clothes and had to go up and testify my side of things, and I couldn't hold it together very well in the courthouse. So the judge saw that I was clearly not okay and actually heard my story and was like, yeah, you get the temporary restraining order. Like, it's obvious you need it because this guy double your age did this to you. Like, that's not okay. And I had requested that county that he lives in, because he lives in a different county than me, or lived in a different county than me. I had it requested that they tell me when they served him, so that way I knew. We even called them to make sure that they would do it, and they're like, yes, absolutely. And so he didn't get served for at least like 3 days after I got my temporary order. And the only way I know that is because he kept blowing my phone up until he got served. And once he got served, he stopped kind of, but then he was texting on the friend account. And the friend account was really him. And yeah. And so that was rough. That was yikes. Yeah. My friend was very great at that time. She was amazing, but that was like both all heart-wrenching along with just soul-crushing, and
So
I just didn't know how to handle it.
So you get the temporary protection order put in place, and he just walks right around it and starts contacting
Yep.
you through this fake Facebook profile.
Yep,
Oh,
exactly.
wow. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. He was ballsy enough to be like, you need to talk to him, like, you need to figure this out, like, this could make him have an extended prison sentence, like, you need to talk to him. And he kept blowing my phone up, and so finally I reached out to him because I was like, okay, clearly I need to do something. Like, I can't just I'm clearly not protected. Like, he's having his friend talk to me and I can't say anything because like I don't know what to do for any of this. This is all new, crazy, scary stuff. And so I reached out to him and broke the no contact, and he was very hesitant with talking to me from what it seemed.
Right.
From what it
Right.
seemed. um, Yeah, no. And so I reached out to him. I was like, "Hey, like, let's meet up and talk. Like, we just need to talk, sit down and talk this through. Like, I'll explain my side, you explain your side." And so we did. And we met up on a road that's like between my house and his house. Although he lived like 15 miles away from me, and so we met halfway. And he was all sketchy, like in a hood, pulled up, like scared to go in the car, whatnot. Yeah. And I was like, hey, like, it's okay. Like, you're safe in here. Like, even when headlights would go past us, he would duck down. I was like, you're really paranoid, but okay, buddy. And so we talked, and we're like, okay, like, how do we want to do this? Like, I don't want to have this restraining order on you, but like, I don't know what to do. I've never done this. And he's like, well, you can either not show up to court for the second hearing, or you can have it dismissed, or we can actually do it, like, battle it out, and you just let me win. And so for me, going into that meeting or that second hearing for the year-long one, because the temporary was for 2 weeks, and then once the 2 weeks was up, that's when you had your second hearing for the year-long protection order. And I got there, at that point we had been talking and FaceTiming constantly, and when I got there, he wasn't allowed to look at me or anything. Like, we had to keep things separated and whatnot. And so finally, when it was our turn to go up, I just asked the judge to dismiss it. I was like, I just want to dismiss it. Like, and she was like, well, if you want to, it's optional. You can say why. And I was like, no comment, because I didn't even know what to say. Like, yeah, that was wild. And looking back now, I'm frustrated with myself, but I also understand. I just did not have the support to deal with what I was dealing with whatsoever. None of us expected him to be the way that he is, a complete psycho. And so once that hearing we just left right afterwards and went on a date together. And for like the first week, things were okay afterwards, and then things got even worse. Which, yeah.
Do you want to go into that?
Because after that.
Do you want to, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because after it, about, I want to say like 2 weeks after is when my mutual friend and I went our separate ways. And so it was just him and I. I was completely isolated. I had no friends. And then one of my other best friends I had, she lived across the country from me. We had been friends for 3 years at that point, or almost 3 years. I was scrolling on Facebook and noticed that she commented on my ex-friend's Facebook post, and he saw over my shoulder. And so he's like, that's not okay. You can't be friends with her anymore. And I was just like, I just got caught. Like, what the fuck just happened? Like, okay, what do I need to do to fix this? Because I don't need you to get angry at me about this. And so he had me message her, and word for word was just like, you're disowned. If you want to be a snake, go be a snake. And he had me type that up, send it, and block. And then I got to see her true colors come out after that message, because I have a laptop, so, or I have a MacBook too, and so my messages from my iPhone got transferred over. And the thing is that whenever you block someone on the iPhone, it takes a while to realize out for the other device. And so I got her message afterwards on my laptop, and she was very, she definitely showed her true colors. Accused me of lying about things that I had proof I was not lying about, like, and things that she knew I wasn't lying about. But she understandably was upset and angry and just chose to take it out on me. And that was frustrating at the time and whatnot. But since then, it's been easier to cope with that stuff because I don't let it hit me as much. Because I was like, well, if they were truly my bestest friends in the world that loved me to death, like, they would have stuck around some way, somehow. They would have been able to. Instead, they couldn't. And so I don't hold that against them to this day. I'm like, well, it's okay. I figured it out in the long run. But yeah, so that all happened, and then him and I, he would call me an alcoholic, but then would make sure I got completely trashed on the weekends just with him. He, yeah, he would have me get super dressed up in an outfit I would never wear, because I'm a blue jeans, my cowboy boots, my flannel, like that's how I normally wear, like a graphic t-shirt with my trucker hat on. And he would have me in these knee-high black boots with heels and black leggings and a black shirt or a pink shirt or a green one, like do my hair up and do like complete full face makeup. And that, I don't do that as much anymore. It takes a lot of time, and when I come home from the bar, I don't want to spend all that time taking the makeup off. I'm ready to just lay down in my bed and go to sleep. And so I completely got I changed completely once I was isolated. I would just be doing all that stuff, and then would go out to the bars with him and have a few drinks, but then would get home and then wake up suddenly in the morning and not know what happened. And so, and it's not, I haven't been able to prove it yet, but I've talked to the ex-girlfriend too, or the other girlfriend that he had, and we're actually really good friends to this day now, because I'll move to where we met later on, but because that was last year, right after like he went to prison. But I at the time like didn't suspect anything besides possibly him putting things in my drink at the bars. Because if I was an alcoholic, then I was going from like having to be able to have multiple beers a night, being young 21-year-old, having a lot of beers, 21, 22 years old at the point, like I was a heavy drinker, and so I knew how much I could handle, and I wasn't even making my
Yeah.
minimum amount of drinks, and would wake up the next morning
What
like,
happened?
what happened? Like,
Mm.
I don't even remember like laying down in bed at all. And so that started happening, and then in May of 2023 was the first time he put hands on me.
So you mentioned
Mhm.
that was this another like phone related incident? You guys were in a vehicle together.
Yeah, so this wasn't phone
Okay.
related. We had actually gone out to the bars and were drinking a bit, and some of his old MC buddies came to the bar that we were at. And so they started taking shots, and I was like, well, if he's taking shots, because we both agree, like, we drink what we each, like, if I'm having a beer, he's having a beer. If he has a shot, then I have a shot. Like, we make it so it's equal and we drink. So that way there's no arguing about who drank more and whatnot, because he would always argue about that. And so him and his buddies were taking shots. So I was like, okay, he's taking a shot. Like, it's clearly okay for me to take a shot. And so I had my lemon drop shot. That was my go to at the time. And had that and was getting pretty buzzed, pretty tipsy. When one of his MC buddies was like, hey, how much do you weigh? Like, you're really tiny. Like, these are all like 6 foot something dudes. And I was like, not much. I don't know. I don't weigh myself. And so he's like, can I pick you up? And me and my like young brain was like, that sure. Okay. It's a weird request. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So he picks me up and I look over and he's pissed. Like, because like prior to like once he asked me that question, I looked over at him and I thought I saw him like going like this, like yes, it's okay, like things are cool because they're his buddies. Like when me and my friends, like if anyone asked me about my friends, like I completely 100%
Mm-hmm.
trust them with my life, and I would trust them with all my other friends' lives. So if he asked me of something and they look at you and say yes, I'm gonna take them at their
Mm-hmm.
word. And so that's what I did with him and let him pick me up, and he got pissed. He stormed into the bar and I like grabbed his arm and I was like, hey, like talk to me, like what's going on? A little bit buzzed, tipsy. And he goes, we're done. We're done. Like, no, we're done. I was like, what do you mean we're done? Like, you drove me here. Like, what's going on? And he's like, no, we're done. You let him pick you up. And I was like, okay, we're done, I guess. And so I left and started walking home. And which he blew my phone up, was like, get your ass back here. You need to get back to this bar. You're embarrassing me. Da, 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 da. And I was like, and I got pissed. I was so upset. I was like, you told me we're done, and now I have to come back to you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that, looking back now, that was a total control
Mm-hmm.
move on his part. Like, I have to applaud him on that one. That one was just, I did not see that coming at all until nowadays, and like, when I do look back. And so, yeah, he got me to go back to the bar, and we went and left his house, or left the bar, and we're driving back to his house when we were arguing about him breaking up with me. And like I got a little loud, I guess. I sometimes I don't understand how loud my voice goes, and so especially when like I'm nervous or anxious or anything like that, like I get a higher pitch. And so
Mm-hmm.
basically we were just arguing about it, and he was like, you never should have let him pick you up. Like, this, it should have been a no-brainer for you. Why would you do that? Like, we're done because of it. That's like cheating on me. And I was like, we're not done. Like, that's not cheating. Like, that's not what that was. I looked at you and you said yes, and I took you at your word and whatnot. And he got very pissed off, and to the point where we were like on the side street of his house, and he yanked the car over, put in a parking lot, had grabbed me by the throat and shoved me against the window. So, because I was passenger seat, so shoved me against the window, and I hit my head really hard on the glass. And at that point, I just started panicking because I was married prior, years and years and years ago, and I had trauma when it comes to people driving me because my ex-husband would slam on the brakes and go, slam on the brakes and go. And so fast forward to now, he would do that, and then him screeching to a halt and grabbing me and trying to choke me out. And so I started just clawing at him, slapping him, just trying to get him off of me. And when he finally does, I slink down to like the floorboard and I'm rocking myself and just like freaking out. In which his response was, get up, get up, get up now. Because I was trying to scream when he had his hand on my throat originally. And apparently I was yelling just like while rocking. And then he grabbed me by my arms, squeezed, and pulled me back into the seat and forced me in the seat to look at him. In which I started screaming, don't touch me. And I don't remember seeing his face or anything for like a solid minute because I was just screaming, "Don't
Mm-hmm.
touch me." And it got to the point where he was just like trying to calm me down, and like I know the panic and pure fear in my eyes was showing because he looked panicked
Mm-hmm.
afterwards. And unfortunately, he had picked me up by the arms hard enough that I had bruises like right here for weeks. And he, even after the incident, tried to gaslight me into thinking it was my fault and that it didn't actually happen.
Mm.
Like he was like, "Why are you freaking out so much?" I was like, "You just choked me out." He's like, "No, I didn't. Like, you're not. That's not what happened." Like, and I was like, "Then what happened?
Lauren,
What happened in which you?"
he
Yeah,
strangled you.
yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, at the time, I let him gaslight me into thinking that it was a one-time thing and that he's never done that with any of his exes. He's never laid hands on any other girls, and he apologized, and he trauma bonded me even more to him with
Mm.
that because he did the hurt, he did the pain, and then he was the source of comfort afterwards because I didn't know what else to do at that
Yeah.
point. I was stuck with him, completely isolated and just, and for me, like, because that was in May, I didn't fully leave him until like the end of June. Because at the time, I was isolated, and my first thought was, well, he didn't punch me. Like, he didn't
Mm.
mess my face up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, he strangled me, but like, there weren't bruises left on my neck, although I am fairly certain to this day I had a concussion afterwards because operating a motor vehicle, trying to walk, do anything that involved my brain, I had a headache. I got dizzy very often for the first week afterwards, and then after a week I was fine. And I've had concussions before that I knew enough where I was like, okay, I might need to get checked out, but I think I'm okay. But I just let him and myself, or let him gaslight me to the point where I started gaslighting myself of just like, it's not that bad. Like, a lot of women have it worse than me, and it's kind of like I drove myself to stay because of that. I was like, well, it could be a lot worse. And yeah, did not have the resources or the friends to help be like,
So,
no, it's not okay.
so
Like,
what changed from that particular incident in the car to where a month later you finally walk away for good?
he, the day that he actually, of the car incident, he introduced me to one of his exes. Love her to death. She's my best friend, big sis to this day. Her name is Shallon. They had dated over 5 years ago, and she like got back in contact with him about something because she was moving and needed help moving. And so that day, him and I went out and helped her move into her little studio, and I met her for the first time. And she was like, "If you need a girl like to talk to hang out with, let me know," because it was a month before he was about to go into prison. And so he was like, "I want you to have someone out here to help you, so because while I'm gone." And so he introduced me to her, and she's in her 40s now, but like whenever we had a moment alone away from him, she'd be like, "Are you okay?"
Mm.
I was like, "Yeah, what do you mean? Yeah, I'm totally okay." And she's like, "No, I need, like, are you okay? Like, has he done anything?" And I was like, "No, I don't know what you're talking about." Because I didn't know if she was going to report it back to him, everything that I said. And so I was like, "No, everything's happy go lucky. Yep, we're great. Love him to death." And so it wasn't until his court hearing for his service, for his booking and
This is
whatnot,
when you found out
she
what his
picked me.
charges were, right? Okay.
Yes, this
Okay.
is, yeah. Yeah, she picked me up from work and drove me to the courthouse alone. So I finally like she's like, "Are you okay? Like, is everything okay?" I was like, "If I tell you something, are you gonna tell him?" And he's like, "No." She was like, "No, absolutely not. Like, absolutely not." And I was like, "He put hands on me last month after I met you for the first time." And she looked me in the eyes and started bawling. Was like, "I am so sorry. Like, I didn't." He told me he changed, and I wanted to believe him. And then she said, "He did that to me too, though. So you're not alone." And when she said that, like, "You're not alone," I just broke down completely. Like, whew, that was the first time I was like, maybe I'm actually not alone. Maybe I'm not crazy. Like, and so once we got to his hearing, that's when I found out about the charges. And I was like, okay, now I'm really not crazy. Like, those charges are there for a reason. And it got to the point where like finally he went to prison and I would be staying at Shallon's house. And like in the beginning he was fine with us being friends, but she was telling me about all the other women that he was like bragging about how he had been with while he was dating me. So I started getting like the suspicions. I was like, okay, push away from him like a little bit more now, getting more facts. I was like, I just need to see the proof. Like as long as I can see it and see the writing, like everything like that, I'll be done. My brain needs to work that way because I keep giving someone a chance until I really can't give them a chance anymore. And so, yeah, I one day got the cojones and started messaging all the girls I had suspicions of because he had proposed to me over the phone, over the prison phone. And I was like, okay, I can't say no because if I say no, then he's gonna know something's up. He's gonna know I'm gonna leave, which then is gonna make a bigger problem for me. And so I said yes to him. I still feel dirty about it. It's like a whole thing, but like, I said yes, so excited, and he got so giddy about it, and like, I was like, okay, now I really have to text those girls and find out what the heck is going on. And so I did, and three of them came back were like, yes, like we did. One of the girls was so shocked about it because she started dating him the same time that him and I started dating. And she got all the good, beautiful, like romantic stuff because she has kids too. And so he had his little fake family down there, fake relationship with me up here. And like she got everything good and sweet and kind from him, whereas I got all the negative, the abuse, all the crap. And so when I texted another girl, and then like a couple other girls, and three of them came back, and one of them was his ex that sent him to prison. And I asked her, I was like, did he put hands on you too? And she said, yes, he did. And I am so sorry that he did with you, because at the time he was taking testosterone with her because he was a huge gym rat. And so she thought it was just the testosterone and the steroids and whatnot that he was taking from the gym. And she's like, I can no longer say it was because of that. It is because of who he is as a person. That's why he did it. And so I brought a little bit of closure for her when it comes to that regard. I'd like to think at least. So that way she knows that it wasn't the drugs, it wasn't anything like that. It was because of who he is as a person. And then when I texted the other girl that he was in a relationship with, who I'm still besties with to this day, I had texted her initially saying, hey, I need to know if you and Michael ever had a thing. He proposed to me over the prison phone today, and I can't go forward with it if something else pops up. Like, I can't. And so she left me on red for a little bit. Turns out her best friend was one of the girls that I had suspicions about and was right about. Because she texted me back, because I was in the process of getting an STD screening. Like, I went the whole 9 yards of I need to find out if, like, anything's on me. Like, ugh, gross. Ugh, even to this day. And so she texted me back while I was at the clinic. And so while I'm there getting my blood drawn, I'm bawling my eyes out because she sent me all the screenshots of the conversations of everything. And so that was all I needed really. And ended up FaceTiming her and my best friend, or my now best friend, because they were best friends. And my best friend now, she never knew about her best friend and him until that girl admitted to it. And they're no longer best friends because of it. Because the girl that knew about it and all that, she knew that him and her were a thing and knew about me and him and didn't say anything to anyone. And so when my best friend and I started talking about it, we were both really angry, but we were crying and we were both like, she was so apologetic towards me because she was like, I'm so sorry that you got all the bullshit, essentially. Like, you got all the abuse, you got everything. And I was like, I'm sorry that he didn't show you his true colors, was willing to drag you out even further along. And because at that point, he was in prison. And what I found out through her was that he was using our game plan, which was to move across the country, start a farm or a ranch, and just live our lives like that. he started using that with the other girls too. And so when she told me that, and I started giggling, I was like, and were you guys gonna go do this? She's like, yeah. Do you know? I was like, because I planned that out. She goes, no way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that was really eye-opening for me, along with just afterwards, like we all three of us, what we did was we all posted we were in a relationship with him onto his Facebook and tagged him in it. And while he couldn't see it, all of his friends and family saw. So everyone knew that he was triple timing. And the most frustrating part was that, like, his mom knew, but she's the one that told me to run. Like, the first day I came to visit her and to go take care of his cat was, you're not the only girl, you need to run. He is not the first, it's not the first time he's put hands on his girls. Like, you need to run
Good for
and don't look
his
back.
mom.
Mm-hmm. And to this day, like, unfortunately, the car that I'm in is actually his car still. We had a deal where I took the car while he was in prison and would give it back to him on a certain day that we both signed off on for a contract. And so I'm about to get myself a new car, but yeah, this is the car that her and I will text occasionally about the car, and she's been so sweet about it because I had to move out of my house with my family and whatnot. My boyfriend and he's in the house right now asleep. He does night
Mm-hmm.
shifts, so I figured I would give him a little piece of quiet. But, like I've been having a tough time because we moved out here and I'm not making as much money as I used to. And so saving up for a new car has been a little difficult. And so I texted her, I was like, hey, here's what's going on. Like, I am trying hard to get the money for the car, but I had to move out short notice. So it was either car or roof, and I chose roof. And so she was like, take as much time as you need. You know the day that we just need it back by. If you want to bring it back sooner, absolutely, that'd be great. If you can't, completely understand. Just be safe. And I was like, absolutely. And I love that woman to death. Like, she viewed me as her daughter in a way. And his cat, I swear I miss
Oh,
that cat too. That cat was sweet, but
she,
like, not worth going back
yeah,
for.
she's tried to save you, and she's been loyal to you.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh yeah.
one of the things, and how I actually ended episode 2, because I heard this recently and it really hit me deep. I was at a survivor meetup in my city, and one of the survivors said, there is a piece of me in all of your stories, and there's a piece of you in my story as well. And I have seen that in just talking to all of all of these survivors and reading your stories that you send me, that we all have a lot of similarities. We've all been through a lot of the same
Mm-hmm.
things. And so for another survivor or a victim who would listen to your story and really resonate with it, what
Mm-hmm.
advice would you give them?
You're not crazy, no matter how they make you think. And the moments where you feel the most like you when you're alone, if you get the chance to be alone, or don't try to think that it's nothing, because it is something, no matter what it is. Even if it's just an unkind word, well, that may not be a, a punch to the face, it's still a punch to your mental health, which is a punch nonetheless. And so don't don't let yourself think that it's too little or insignificant. Nothing's too little or insignificant.
Listen to your own voice. It
Mm-hmm.
deserves to be
Your
heard.
gut knows. Yep.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and being brave and being the lighthouse for other victims who are looking to leave and other survivors who are trying to heal.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.